Aloha and welcome to Truth in Movies. I'm JayDreamerZ, and today we're going to break down and take a look at this brand new movie that just came out on YouTube. Actually, you can check it out right here on YouTube. It's called Cell. Not to be confused with The Cell with J-Lo. It's a totally different one. This one stars John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson. This movie's insane, and we're doing this one because all of you recommended for me to watch it. I can't tell you how many people told me, go watch this movie. You totally have to check this out. You'll like it. And I do. So thank you for all the recommendations. Let's jump into this movie. Let's start things off. We've got the people that bring you the movie, which is Lion's Gate. Very interesting. We did a breakdown on the word lion, and we saw how it could be related. The root word is related to the word light. So lion essentially translates to those of the light or of the light. So Lion's Gate translates to gate of the light, or portal of the light, or door of light, essentially. Now, this is not the movie still. This is another company that brought you the movie, but look at their little introduction that they have here. It looks like there's these three red lights in the sky, and they're going to be moving across what looks like the face of some kind of a planet that's scarred. And then all of a sudden, this plasma shoots out of these lights that come down from the sky, and it rips through the surface of what looks like this planet over here, and it starts terraforming it. It starts destroying it and changing the surface of it, scarring the surface of what looks like some sort of a red planet. Almost kind of like the planet Mars. And it leaves these three gashes, which gives us the logo for one of the companies that brings you this movie. The reason I like to share this is because I find that the logos oftentimes give you a little hint as to what the entire movie is going to be about. It starts off the context, essentially. So we've got the three stripes, which we've made reference to before, the three lights, the three pillars, and it says Sabin Films. The word Sabin comes from the root. Etymology is the study of the roots or the origins of words. So we do that a lot here on my channel. There's a word called Sabaoth, which means armies or hosts. It's a Hebrew word. It comes from the Latin Sabaoth and the Greek Sabaoth. Now, this is not to be confused with the word Sabbath, which is very similar, but this one's a little bit different. It actually derives from Tzaba, Zaba, which means he waged war. So if we go back and look at it, Sabin Films, they're showing you the Mars symbolism, right? Of the plasma coming down and terraforming the world. It's the red planet. And of course, Mars is the god of war. Sabin Films, the god of war films. Now, another person that brings you the film is 120 Decibels Films. Everything good in the chat? Are you guys good? Everybody having a good time? I hope so. All right, cool. So 120 decibels. This is interesting too. Notice the similar red colored theme. You're going to see that a lot throughout this movie. Now check this out. 120 decibels is also the level of sound similar to a thunderclap. So we've got the association with thunder or lightning or electricity already. It's very similar to how loud a rock concert is. And as you can see, 120 decibels is a very loud noise level, close to the upper limit of the decibel scale. How loud is 120 decibels? It's a decibel level that describes extremely loud sounds. In fact, on a decibel chart, 120 marks the limit from which the sounds become painful and very dangerous to the human ear. This is very interesting because this entire movie is going to be referring to and referencing frequency, right? Sound, especially. Those things that we hear, those things that we take, those vibrations we take into ourselves. Now, here's another one. Check this out. It's called the Genre Company. It's also red, but it seems to be hidden. The words are hidden behind what looks like ice, right? Almost as if it's right behind ice. So basically, that would be symbolic of the plasma beyond our world, just beyond the sky. All right, so we kick things off, and they show we're at an airport right now, a hub of people coming and going, and everyone's looking at their cell phones. Everybody's on their cell phones. The movie makes a point to show you all of the various people who are traveling, who are on their phones. If you take a look at many of these people, they're totally all separated from one another. They don't know there's other people around. They're engrossed in technology. So on the surface level, this movie is going to be very easy to break down in that we are all humanity has become a bunch of zombies, symbolically speaking, that we're so connected to these devices, but we're going to take it even deeper. Now, this is based on the book by Stephen King of the same name called Cell. And here we've got John Cusack. His name in the movie is Clay, which is very interesting too. It's a reference to Adam, right? Adam and Eve, the first humans made out of clay. And not just Adam and Eve, many other people too. So he's on his phone as well, right? He's good. He's talking to his kid, and all of a sudden his phone dies. And he's like, ah, dang, man. So he goes over to a regular payphone. Now, for those of you who are a little bit younger, this is what cell phones used to look like before you could move them around. It was called a payphone. So you had to find one of these in order to make a call to somebody. All right, so as he's making his call, right, he gets cut off because he runs out of money or whatever, and all of a sudden he hears this ruckus. What ruckus? Could you describe the ruckus, JayDreamerZ? Yes, I can. He looks over and he sees that people are starting to hold on to their heads. They're holding their ears. Mostly everyone who's on a cell phone hears this high-pitched whine, and everyone starts to scream. All the people who are on their cell phones, even in the bathroom. And I'm going to tell you something too. Girls, this is what it looks like in the men's bathroom. Isn't that weird? People will go to the bathroom and be on their cell phone and everything. It's crazy. But anyways, all these people who are connected to technology, specifically cell phones, right? They start to hear this loud, high-pitched ringing sound, and everyone starts to go nuts. All those people who were on the phone at the time. This girl starts to salivate from the mouth. This guy falls down. The girl falls down, and this other guy, random dude, just jumps on top of her and starts beating her. So Clay jumps to her rescue, and he saves her, even though it's too late. The police guy, check this guy out. So right down here is a dog, and this cop dude, this little airport security, whatever they are, he starts eating the dog. Okay, so people are losing their minds, and this is happening. We're supposed to assume that this is happening worldwide, all at one time, that everyone who is connected to one of these devices starts to lose their mind. They hear high-pitched ringing sound. They start screaming. They start becoming murderous. They become killers, right? And there seems to be no rhyme or reason to what's going on. And to those of us who are not affected, we look at this and we're like, wow, these people all just lost their minds. They're all going crazy, right? But in their minds, it's not like that. In their minds, what they're doing makes complete sense to them, right? It's absolutely justified to them. It's empirical to them, basically. All right, so we got another girl. She's freaking out because she sees what's going on. So she wants to call somebody and tell them. Second she gets on the phone, she starts getting all messed up, and spit comes out of her mouth and stuff. And Clay's looking at her like, what the heck? She loses control of herself and runs head first into a wall purposefully, right? Tries to smash her face and stuff like that. Yeah, that was pretty gross. Which actually reminds me of another movie that's along the similar lines. Have you guys seen The Happening? Right? Where there was some sort of a signal or some sort of a vibration or some sort of a smell or whatever it was that the plants were emitting that caused humanity to lose their minds in that movie as well. And many of those people immediately tried to kill themselves, which is also said in the Bible. The Bible talks about in the last days that men will seek death but won't be able to find it. That what's going on will have people losing their minds. Now check this out. John Cusack drops down to the ground, which is one of the things that happened during the depressurization event of the worldwide reset. When our atmosphere depressurizes, many people will drop down to their knees. And this is seen symbolically as everyone paying homage to the Lord who has arrived. So he drops down and he puts on this little beanie that he has over his head immediately. Super good idea. They don't explain it in the movie, but all of these people are affected by a frequency that is resonant worldwide. It's resonating worldwide. So he covers his head, which is a really good idea. That's your brain, and that's where these frequencies are trying to get in. He covers up his head. Now, this is also a little shout out, basically, to the tinfoil hat thing. The whole tinfoil hat conspiracy and people covering their heads and making sure that their heads aren't susceptible to the frequencies that are out there. We're going to come back to those frequencies too. So everyone's losing their mind. This is happening worldwide. One of the planes basically crashes into the airport. So all the world is falling apart. What does the character Clay do? He goes down just like in the last movie that we saw, right? We're starting to see a lot of these themes, right? Whenever we see something that symbolically is apocalyptic, the character goes down. They go underneath. This is symbolic of the esoteric, getting deeper into things. Also, the red lights come on. That's what happens whenever the apocalypse kicks off, is that the color spectrum changes into the red color spectrum. So he's down there in the subway area. He's looking around. He sees all of the zombies. They're basically zombies. They don't use the word zombie in this movie because they were probably trying to make it look like it's, you know, similar to zombie movies, but it's totally not another zombie movie. It is another zombie movie, okay? But I like the way that it's done. I like the angle. So he goes onto the subway. Remember, we talked about this many times too, the subway symbolism, or the train symbolism, right? The train or the subway car represents the plasma conduits, right? That take you from one realm to another realm. So this guy tries to get on the train to find safety. Hold on one sec. Okay, so some of the words on the bottom might be cut out, but I'll just read them. He says, we need to get out of this airport right now before it burns to the ground. Symbolically, he's talking to you. He's talking to me. We're referencing the apocalypse. These are the same stories over and over and over. They're being retold. We are retelling ourselves or reminding ourselves about our forgotten and hidden past, the ancient oblivion that we walked away from in order to indulge in the modern world. He says we need to get out of this airport right now before it burns to the ground. That's a reference to the apocalypse. Now, Samuel L. Jackson's in charge. His name is Tom, which means twin. He's in charge of the train, right? So one of the twins, there's the twin symbolism. He's in charge of the train, and he goes, no, you can't get out of here right now because Central shut down the power and the emergency brakes came up. So here's another thing that happens when the stuff hits the fan. The power goes out. There is a worldwide EMP and the power is gone for a short amount of time, right? There's an electromagnetic pulse. The power goes out. All of the electricity goes out. And he says, you know what? We could walk. We could walk there. You know what? I'm going to fix that real quick because I want you guys to be able to see. I want you guys to be able to see the words. Hold on. Let's see. We got screenshot. Boom. Pow. All right. One moment. All right. Cool. I'm pretty sure that should work. Let's test it out. That's good enough. All right. Anyway, so Samuel L. Jackson says they need to get out of there. They need to go to a place of safety. They can't rely on modern technology. They can't rely on electricity. They definitely cannot use their phones. So he says, let's walk. Let's walk to this place of safety. Let's all go on this exodus or this trip together and let's walk there, right? He says, I've got maps of the system and I got all the maintenance tunnels and the exits marked, right? This is somebody who's been studying this for some time. He represents some of us who are looking for the exits to this world. Some of us who are studying the inner earth cavernous systems, or also known as the hollow earth theory. He says we can walk right out of here. We can just get up and go. Now, keep in mind that there's two different cycles to the apocalypse. One of them is whenever there is no ocean, and then the oceans are introduced, right? The other one is whenever we already have an ocean, which we do today, and those oceans are removed. They're taken away, which means you can now walk to the North Pole or to the Tree of Life. He says, that's a brilliant idea. You're my new best friend. Now he goes on and he says, everyone else in the train, all of a sudden they're a part of this conversation. Everyone else is in the train's like, oh, you don't want to go. That's stupid. We should all stay here. We're safe right here, which represents many people in this world who are comfortable where they are. They're comfortable, being fed by the government. They're comfortable in their anti-self-reliant, situations. All right. So the train driver says, look, if we don't go now, all of this is going to be underwater. There's going to be a flood, right? So remember, they're down in the lower levels. This is also a reference and a shout out to the Great Flood, right? That comes. So he says, if nobody's manning the pumps, the whole system will flood. So they take off. There's 3 of them at first. I don't even know who this kid is, some YouTuber or something. And he goes with them, and then they stop. They see all these people way down at the end of the tunnel, and he's like, are they normal? Are they normal? And he goes, I don't know. Do they look normal to you? He says, I don't know. He says, do you want to take the chance? I mean, what's abnormal, right? What does normal look like? So here's what the movie's saying to us. There are those of us, there's a battle between good and evil, okay? There's a battle between the energetic forces of positive and negative. And it's a part of the fractalverse that we live in. It's a part of reality in the world that we live in. So the thing is how do you tell who is normal? How do you tell if somebody has that good spirit that's hiding behind a body, or a bad spirit, or a selfish one, or however you want to see it, that's also hiding inside of a body, right? You can't tell. Everyone looks normal. Everyone looks just like you. The thing is, you know them by their fruits. You know them. I'm not talking about the movie. Obviously, they're zombies and stuff, right? But this is how you can tell if other people are on your side or have a similar energy as you, by their actions, by the way they carry themselves, by the vibrations that they share with the rest of the world. You could just tell. He says, you want to take that chance? I mean, what's abnormal, right? So they don't take the chance. They take off. The zombie people start running after them. They kill the YouTuber kid, and they pop up out of this little tunnel with all the zombies in tow. Now, he takes the chance of texting, which I didn't think is a super good idea. He busts out, he has to borrow the guy's phone. He sends a text message to his kid, but it comes back all garbled and mixed up. So he's really worried about his kid. He wants to get home now. He wants to go find out that his kid is okay. And he's worried that he might not be because the text is all garbled. So they meet this girl named Alice. She comes in and there's like, are you hurt? She's like, well, I killed my mom just now. So yeah, I'm not in a good place. Because her mom flipped out and became one of the cell phone people. I forgot what they call them, like phoners or something like that. People who use the phone, basically. Now, she killed her mother. And this is also a prophecy and a prediction right out of the Bible. It says that brother shall deliver up brother to death, and father child. And children shall rise up against their parents and shall put them to death. And you shall be hated because of my name. But he who has endured until the end, he shall be saved. Whenever they may persecute you in this city, flee to another one. For I say to you, you may not have completed the cities of Israel until the Son of Man may come. A disciple is not above the teacher, the servant above his Lord. Anyways, I don't know why I highlighted all that. Basically, all you need to know is that the Bible predicts that an event would come, the time would come, whenever families would be torn apart. Blood relation would not matter when this time comes, because it's based off of people's perceptions. People's perceptions change so drastically that they are justified in their own minds for turning in their quote-unquote loved ones, basically giving them a sentence of death, right? If not killing them themselves, and then it becomes justified. All right, so Clay is talking to his new buddy Tom, the train driver, and he says, listen, Tom, I'm going to head north. Like, I stopped the movie. I'm like, I knew you were going to head north. You didn't even have to say that. I knew you were going to head north. North is always the place of safety, right? That's because they need to go to the North Pole, because this is all symbolic of the apocalypse. Excuse me. And the North Pole is, the legends say that would be a safe haven from the apocalypse. Now, he says, I'm going to a place called Kent Pond in the morning as soon as it gets light. Now, we've seen the word Kent come up in Truth in Movies a couple of different times, right? And he says, I think you and Alice should probably come with me. So now he wants to go on this journey, right? On this expedition, on this trek to head north to wherever Kent Pond is as soon as the light comes up, as soon as he sees the light. This is amazing. He says, you and Alice should probably come with me. So Tom, the twin, should definitely be there. And Alice, which means strong with the light, should also be there. Now, Kent Pond, that's where he's headed. Let's check out if it matches our theory. Kent means corner land, or land on the edge, right? The land at the corners. What corners? The corners of the world. The four corners of the world are not and were never seen to have been on the outside edges, right? for the most part. There's many exceptions. Nowadays, we misinterpret what was said a long time ago, and we apply it to a modern way of thinking, and we assume that the ancients must have thought that the corners of the world were outside on the edge. How is that possible, though, when the ancients saw the earth as being a circle? So there would not be any corners on the outside edge, but on the inside, in the middle, right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the 4 quote-unquote westernmost points of the world in the ancient world, because west was seen as being down or into the hollow recesses of the earth, as opposed to east or ost, which is up, basically. All right, so this is Kent Pond right here in the middle. Let me talk about this real quick. This is an old map drawn by a man named Mercator, and this shows the North Pole. This shows the 4 lands at the North Pole. This is just one example. There's many online. You can find many examples of them. Right in the middle is Rupus Nigra. If you check that out, let's zoom in just a bit here. Now, around the outside edges, you can see there's sort of this river of ocean, okay, that goes all the way around. This is the Arctic Ocean. See all this river right here? Right? That is saline, that is brine, that is salt water. However, in the middle, this lake, this huge lake, is crystal clear. This huge lake has no salt or anything. It's fresh water. And this is Kent Pond. This is where they're going in the movie, basically. The pond at the 4 corners of the world. All right, so one of the phones starts to ring. Samuel L. Jackson puts it in the freezer, shuts it. He's like, nah, he's turning it off. We're not going to answer that. Probably a good idea, because the freezer or the refrigerator is going to act as a Faraday cage too, to keep it from working, basically. All right, so we've got all the little zombie people, all the phone zombies. I guess we'll call them the phone zombies. So the phone zombies all start flocking together. At first, everyone seems to be kind of independently psycho, right? And then all the psychotic people start realizing, like, well, they don't realize anything. They just naturally start flocking together, just like animals, just like insects. They swarm. Swarming is one of the signs. I have a lot of people that ask me, what are the signs I should look for? What are the omens of the apocalypse on the way? How close are we? When you see things like this, okay, swarming starts to occur because of the energy and the frequencies that we all, inhabitants of this world, follow naturally. We follow those electromagnetic currents, just like in Donnie Darko. Remember when we broke that one down and he followed that plasma that came out of his body or whatever? It's the same principle. All of these people are starting to become group-oriented and group-minded. So the girl says, Alice says, they're like birds, right? They're kind of like birds. They're acting like a flock of birds. So they look around the corner. They're trying to go north, to head for safety. And they see this circle of zombies over here. Now, it's hard to see them, but they're actually all running in a circle, right? It's kind of hard to make it out because, I got to take pictures of it. But they're all running in a circle. They're all spinning around in a circle. We'll come back to that. That's really interesting. Now, they all group up and attack some biker or something like that, and they start eating them or something crazy. Then they show you this building, which is really interesting because you've got the black cube symbolism in the middle. But look off to the sides here, right? This is just a random shot of the city, purposefully chosen for what you see in the shot, right? Which are these wagon wheels that symbolically are set up in the sky, right? We've talked about these wagon wheels many times, which is the all-seeing eye or the eye in the sky. Usually it's a circle within a circle with lines coming out of it, just like a wagon wheel. For more information or for another really good example, I would highly recommend Googling Nostradamus's wagon wheel, or the wheel of Nostradamus that he drew. All right, so they're out looking for stuff. One of the psycho phone zombies tries to attack him. He gets blown away by Samuel L. Jackson, who's ready and willing. All the zombies start chasing after them. All kinds of people, hundreds of people just chasing after them. And then something weird happens. They're hiding from these phone zombies. And the phone zombies all of a sudden start opening their mouths like this. They just open their mouth real wide, real weird. All at the same time, they all open their mouths and start making a noise. They all start making this weird noise. Now, what it sounds like, I don't have a clip for you, but for those of you old enough to remember what the internet first sounded like when you tried to log in the good old AOL days, right? That's the kind of computer sound that they were making, like that. I don't know how to do it, okay? I suck at it. But anyways, they're making this creepy computer type of frequency sound all together harmoniously, right? And they open their mouth and they make this weird chanting sound, which is very interesting, right? Because we still do that today. You know, some people, they'll go Aum or whatnot, because that's a frequency, right? That's an energy. And whenever you participate in the energetic field, you change the energetic field. So it's done purposefully, right? This is their way of communicating, basically. They're all opening their mouths and making this weird, strange sound while looking for them who are hiding underneath this boat, this upturned boat. And Samuel L. Jackson's like, what the hell? What's going on? Now they take a peek and all the people start grouping together. Just like in I Am Legend. Remember those zombies, right? How Will Smith went into like those empty rooms and all those zombies were kind of huddled together, right? That's what these zombies are starting to do. And then, as you can see, they take off and they're all actually holding on to each other like a little trust walk. And all the zombies follow up this trail one after another. And zombies... excuse me, the zombies take off. So they start talking about they start talking about the zombies and what they were doing with their mouths and why they're all holding on to each other, walking away. So they speculate that maybe they're psychic. And Samuel L. Jackson says, oh, so now they're psychic. He goes, no, they're telepathic. Like maybe the pulse flows through them. So he calls it a pulse. It's a frequency. And our Earth has a frequency right now, even according to mainstream academics, right? And modern science, if you want to call it that. They say that the Earth has its own resonant field. It has its own frequency. And that frequency is subject to change. And when it changes, all life on the Earth is affected by it because we live in that frequency. It runs through our very being. He says, they're like this big organic network. Alice says, yeah, it's kind of like a hive mind. So they're all starting to tune into the same frequency. They're all starting to come together. Now, this is pretty much what happens on both ends of the spectrum. Okay, this is what happens on both ends of the apocalypse. In the blue sky, everyone, all the evil people, I'm going to generalize, okay, but all the evil, bad people, they all come together and they all want you to join them. They all want one big evil corporation, basically, to all be one-minded or of one thought in their evil ways, in their bad guy kind of ways. But on the other hand of the spectrum, the exact opposite happens in the utopian society. This would be a dystopian society, but the utopian society is the same thing, same dangers, except for they call it good. And it's not. It's just the other end of the spectrum where everyone is forced to be on the same page and no one should be different. And you know what I mean? There shouldn't be any exceptions or whatever. All right. So they come to this building, looks like the Academy of the X-Men or something. And there's this headmaster and he says, welcome to the Gayton Academy. Gayton. Well, that's interesting. Let's see what Gayton means and how this place weighs in on their journey. Gayton means those who come from the cave, or the port, or the gate, aka the Lion's Gate, remember? All right, so the Gayton Academy is the academy for those who come from the cave. What cave? The cave of saviors, the cave of electricity, the cave of power, the cave of treasures, the cave of wonders that is described and talked about. It's the holy cave. It's the holy mountain, Mount Meru, the plasma volcano. He says, quite a problem these cell phones have caused now, isn't it? It's talking to us, right? Yeah. I mean, technology is great, and I'm glad that we can use it. However, we live in an entropy-filled world where things, no matter how good the invention is, the energy of the people distorts the purpose of that invention, and they use it for evil, right? So technology is not evil inherently. It's just technology, but it's how it is used by most of us, and how it is used by most of us reciprocates the energy that most of us have. You could tell, right? So it's not technology's evil. We're evil. The world's evil right now. I mean, many of us are exceptions, okay? But I'm just saying the whole world's pretty evil right now. The devil's intercom, that's what I used to call them. All right, now, this one's going to be, some of this is kind of dark, so I'm going to go through it kind of quickly, but they're at this, what looks like a high school or something, right? This this place. And then they show you, this is the stadium right there. And then over there, you're going to see the track field or the football field, right? Where all these zombies are all sleeping. They all went to sleep during the nighttime. During the daytime, they're active. And during the nighttime, they lie down together and they all have their cell phones, every single one of them. And all of a sudden, music starts to play from the cell phones. They're all listening to the same channel on the cell phone, right? Or the same command or the same voice. They're all hearing the same voice, you could say. This is exactly like in Friday the 13th, how Jason Voorhees hears the voice of his mother, right? But anyways, this guy says the music comes from their mouths too. So not only is the music coming from the cell phones, which is just a device in order to pass on frequency from one to another, the sounds coming out of their mouths when they open their mouth, or whatever, right? The music is actually coming from their mouths, which means that it's in the air. This frequency is in the ether itself. It's in the atmosphere, exactly how it's described during the Carrington event, right? There in the late 1800s or mid 1800s, there was the Carrington event where the sky worldwide was filled with electromagnetic power so strongly that the auroras came all the way down to the equator or near to the equator. It was so strong, our world was so filled with electromagnetic power during the Carrington event that people could unplug their devices, their electric devices that depended on being plugged in. They could unplug them and they still worked. They could still send messages to one another, according to telegraph operators, through the ether itself. Wow. So he says they're acting like a colony of bees or ants. Interesting. Says they act for the good of the group as a whole. That's the world we live in today too. The evil people protect each other. They protect the system that they use, basically, right? And there's no competitiveness. There's no selfishness. Now that's good. Like both sides have their good and bad qualities. You know what I mean? The good and bad aspects. Ultimately, I'm more of a neutral kind of person. So I don't desire a utopia as much as I don't desire a dystopia. That's just me though. I got to fix a green screen, huh? It's kind of... All right, anyways. He says, every human on planet Earth will be a part of one giant organism. Well, yeah, that's because planet Earth is one giant organism, right? We tend to follow whatever the Earth is doing, whatever the vibe is of the Earth. That's how we start doing it too. He says no individuality, no privacy. Come on, right? So yeah, this is something that they value in the world of today, is their privacy, their individuality, right? Being completely different from one another. However, are we really that different? Right? Just because we might look different or someone wears an earring or someone doesn't or whatever, that doesn't really make them different just because they appear to be different, right? So maybe they're trying to be different, but in reality, they're all flocking together. They're all grouping together. And in the utopia, nobody also has privacy, okay? Everyone's thoughts are known to one another, right? People actually have to practice keeping certain thoughts private from one another because the telepathic urge is so strong between people, especially in females, that there's no privacy, that everyone is on the same page, that whatever you know, someone else is also going to have access to. So he says no war, no resource depletion. So they're talking about the pros and cons. This kid says it's kind of like software updating. Please stand by should be blinking on their foreheads. He says, you mean that their brains were wiped? Their brains were wiped out. Whoever they think that they are is gone. They have amnesia collectively, right? And remember, these zombies represent most of the world. He says, yeah, I mean, well, what is a brain anyways? I mean, it's just a big old hard drive. The words are behind me. Sorry. So this is on YouTube. Normally I don't watch videos on YouTube, but hello. Hey, thanks for the donation. Silence. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, let's move forward. All right, so Samuel Jackson, aka Tom, says organic circuitry. The brain, your brain is organic circuitry. Your brain, our brains are computers for the body, right? Now, for more information about the great memory wipe and how it's possible that everyone in the world, with exceptions, will likely experience worldwide amnesia, collective amnesia, causing us to forget our identity, causing us to forget our past, causing us to forget what even happened during the reset. These are some videos from my channel that you can check out. Thanks again, Silence. So one's called the Great Memory Wipe. I have another called Amnesia Island, AI. Another one called the Plasma Possessed. So this is also going to give you more information about what I call being plasma possessed, or possessed by a frequency, possessed by an energy that is greater than your own, basically. Here's another one too, the Real Robot AI Apocalypse and Zombie Apocalypse too. So I've spoken on this subject many times, so I can see why so many of you recommended it to me. Hey, what's up, Dark Light Empath? I see you in the chat. All right, so these are all the people. This is a truck. That's kind of hard to see here, but there's a truck filled with gasoline, and they drive it over all these zombies. They don't even move. They're not even affected whenever they're meditating or whatever. And they pour gasoline over all the zombies, and all of these phone zombies catch on fire. And then some of them start getting up and running around screaming and stuff, right? So they're trying to destroy the zombie army, basically. So this guy goes to the bathroom, excuses himself, and then he meets the guy in the red hoodie, who turns around, and he looks like he's a phone zombie too, and he does a little call me sign or whatever. And then he's like, oh my God, he takes out his gun. But it turns out he was just dreaming, right? It's a dream sequence. And he was dreaming about this dude in the red hoodie. So he starts telling people when he wakes up about his dream that he just had. This kid says, yeah, I saw a disgusting guy in my dream too. He was dirty. He had yellow teeth. He had a red hoodie on. And the girl's like, oh my God, you too? Me too. In my dream, he was poking my neck with a knitting needle. Kind of reminds me of in the Matrix, right? When they plug him in. In my dream, he was poking my neck with a knitting needle. Also, that's what it could feel like when you're shocked with electricity. Keep that in mind. And calling me insane. So this red hoodie figure that they're dreaming about is basically teasing them in their dreams, accusing them of bad things that they don't want to be accused of. Now, he says, in a red hoodie, oh man, Samuel L. Jackson gets up. He's like, yeah, he pushed me in front of a speeding train. Basically, this character in that they're seeing in their dreams is suggestive, right? It is trying, what they're hearing are the echoes of what the zombies are programmed to see and to hear and to experience. They're feeling these echoes, these reverberations from the frequency itself. And so they're closer to that realm, to the spirit realm, you could call it, or the energetic realm during sleep time. That's why their dreams are warning them of this red, this figure in the red hoodie. Now, Clay is like dumbfounded. He's like, oh, this is insane and this is impossible. Why? Well, he says, the guy in my dream, the guy in the red hoodie, that's the character from my graphic novel. So this guy is basically a cartoonist, or he's an artist. He's an author, and he writes books, right? And the character in his book basically is coming to life. He's like, that's the character in my book. You know my comic book, The Night Traveler? Now, it is The Night Traveler. It would be The Night Traveler, right? Because the apocalypse happens at night, because all the lights go out. So he's the Night Traveler. He's a prophet of the apocalypse. Man, it's kind of hard to see right there. But this red hoodie character is a prophet, or a speaker of the apocalypse, an omen of the apocalypse, a frequency that is a harbinger of what is to come, which is the apocalypse itself. So Tom is like, you saw all this stuff coming? You knew about this? He's like, hey man, it was just a comic book. You know, like I didn't create this or anything. Like I didn't know, it was just a comic book. So why is that huge? Okay. Because what the movie is showing you is exactly what we are doing right now. Okay. We collectively may tap into those things that we have forgotten about. We may tap into those things that have been hidden away collectively, subconsciously, in the creative side of our minds, or in what I call spirit memory. Many of us can recollect. Many of us can remember. Many of your most favorite entertainers, whether they be in the music industry or in Hollywood or somewhere else, or even myself, all they need to do is have a peaceful mind, or a still mind, and open up themselves to that frequency. And when they do that, they're tapping into what is known collectively as the Akashic records, or the vibration, the frequency, the recordings, the records that are up there in the sky, the ether, you could call it, right? The electromagnetic field. We tap into that. right? It's not impossible to do. It's very easy to do, actually. So oftentimes you can look at movies, you can look at song lyrics and stuff. Some people may intentionally know what they're writing. Some people may intentionally, purposefully be writing these things because they understand the symbolism or they understand what they're conveying. Some might not. Some might just be doing it subconsciously, just like whenever you have that automated writing or whatever that's called that people do, right? They don't know what they're writing, but they're writing stuff, right? Same type of deal. All right, so they take off. They're like, yeah, I don't want to sleep anymore, which is a reference to not being able to sleep after the apocalypse because the world is inundated with such high amounts of electromagnetic energy. You're energized, okay? You don't need to sleep anymore. And you're going to see that theme quite often. And you're probably going to start experiencing less sleep as well. The closer we get to the apocalypse and the more energy builds up in our world today. So here's a pile of cell phones. It's all burnt up. I love it. I think it's great. This is basically like the book burnings, but it's kind of like cell phones instead and technology and stuff. So all the technology burns up. And, oh, I just got a donation. Fight for the Sky just gave me $10 and says, I appreciate your passion and curiosity. I'm a new fan, and I must have watched a dozen of your videos in the last 2 weeks. You're a fantastic human. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Your little symbol kind of reminds me of the Hurley symbol, too, or the Janus symbol. It's pretty interesting. All right. Thank you very much again. Let's go ahead and continue on. So they come to this place. Now, look at what the sign says. I would like to see what your interpretation of this might be, but somebody has drawn on this sign, Kashwak, no foe. Kashwak equals no foe. I love Kashwak. Interesting, right? So they go into this diner that has regular people in it, and they say, hey, what the hell is Kashwak? What do you guys think that is? So that's why I'm asking you, all of you right now, what do you suppose that means? What is Kashwak, right? What could that represent? Why is that in the movie? I'll tell you right now, it's important because the movie asks you to stop and consider it. And oftentimes it'll look like they're talking to the other characters, but in reality, the movies are for us. They're for us, okay? So the questions they ask are for us too. All right, so they get their answer. What is Kashwak? It's an unincorporated area that they call TR90. Now, if you were with us yesterday during our live stream, I made a reference to this, and I told you we were going to talk about this today. TR90, unincorporated, meaning not a part of something, right? So this is an area. This Kashwak is an unincorporated area symbolically of our world, okay? A place that is basically off limits, unincorporated, right? Not for everybody. And its technical name is TR90. So let's take a look at it, right? He says everybody's going there. Everybody who hasn't been pulsed. So everyone who hasn't turned psychotic and crazy and stuff, they're all going to a place called TR90, aka Kashwak, also known as Kashwamak. Hold on, let me say this right. Kashwakamak Lake. See that right there? Kashwakamak Lake. Let's break this down. Kashwakamak Lake. Now, we already talked about Kent Lake, right? Same exact place, basically. And we've seen this many times, right? Now, remember, they're going to a place called TR90. Well, let's take a look at the center of one of these older maps of the North Pole. And as you can see, at the exact center, all the way around, is the number 90. Isn't that interesting? It's 90 degrees is the North Pole. TR is from this root word, tar, right? Just like the tar on a tree, right? A viscous liquid, etc., comes from the word teru, various variations of that. Basically, it's deru, okay? It's TR, also can be DR at its root. And it means tree, basically. So where they're going is the tree of the world at the middle of the world, the TR90, the tar 90, or the tree at the 90th degree. All right, so they, let's see, what else we got here? I forgot what this is. Oh, Akash. Man, where did this come from? Hold on, Akash. Why? I have to tie this in. Akash, what was it? TR90, Kashwak. Okay, cool. So let's break down Kashwak real quick. Kashwaka, just like Fozzie Bear, waka waka waka, same thing. Kashwaka Mak Lake. So we're going to break that down now. All right, so if we go to Kash, it's actually short for Akashic, right? Or Akash. You could say Akashic, just like the Akashic records. That's basically what I'm getting at, okay? So Kash comes from Akash or Akashic, which means in Sanskrit, Akasha means the upper sky or the ether. So remember, we're breaking down Kash, which means ether, aka plasma, or the frequency in the sky. Okay? Kash, Waka, Mak. Kash is the ether. Waka, there's two possibilities. One is it's related to the word wake, or wake is related to the word waka, which means to be awake, right? That one's pretty easy. But in other languages, at least 3 other languages that I've found, the word waka means root. A root that grows up out of the ground, right? Waka, 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 3 roots, etc. So Kash waka means the sky root. Interesting. All right, so Mak. Let's look up Mak. Well, here's waka in another language. It means root. Here it is in Palue. Here it is in Maori. In Maori, it actually conveys something similar but different. It can mean a boat or a canoe by extension, but it specifically means something that goes from one place to another, something that transports, or something that is seen as transporting, right? Just like the root, right? It transports, it moves from one place to another or whatever. Mak. What is Mak in Kash Waka Mak? Mak means long and thin. It comes from the Proto-Indo-European root mak, M-A-K, exact same one. It means long and thin. So altogether, it could be translated Kash equals ether, Waka equals root, and Mak equals long and thin. A beam of plasma growing from the ground to the sky, right? Ether, Kash, Waka, root, Mak, long and thin. Right? So long, thin sky beam, basically. That was a long way around that one. I'm sorry. All right, let's move on. So he says everybody is going there. Everybody who hasn't been pulsed. So some pulse is going to happen to this world. The frequency is going to change in this world, which is going to kick off essentially violence everywhere. War all over the place. Okay? Now, this isn't just in the movies at all. This is everywhere. This is in your history. This is in religious prophecies and stuff, that war comes before the end comes. Okay? People lose their minds. People start congregating together. They start flocking together. The animals and everything starts to flock. What? That was not flock. What the hell's the word? When they all get together, they swarm. Okay, they all start to swarm together. Oh man, I got to get caught up in the chat too. So everyone's swarming together. He says everyone who hasn't gotten this pulse, they're all going there. Basically, people are going to the North Pole for safety. Now, you see the people opening their mouth. This guy on the left, he's actually being attacked by this zombie. She's not trying to kill him or anything. She just opens her mouth exceedingly wide, and that weird tone comes out of her mouth. So it turns him into one. Basically, he hears it, and it's like right in his face, and he starts turning into one too. So they take off. They leave that diner. They're on their way to the sky route or whatever, Kashwakamak Lake. And the red hoodie guy's watching him the entire way, right? Who does he represent? What do you think? Right after they show the red hoodie guy, immediately they show this cell phone tower. Now, I'll tell you a funny story. This is personal, but whenever I'm out with my son and we're driving places and we see one of those things, I'm like, grab your weapons, grab your weapons. And I'm like, I take out like a pretend bazooka and stuff, and we blast them, we pretend or whatever. But right after they show the guy in the red hoodie, they show this, the cell phone tower. The movie is called Cell, right? Which might be about cell phones, but it also might be something a little deeper, which is a battery or a cell or a circuit, right? And how electricity moves in the world collectively. So they show the cell phone tower, which, by the way, is probably boosting the signal. Okay, so many people ask me about 5G and about the cell phone towers and stuff. Look, like these are designed to send signals across the world, to get a signal spread out as far as possible. So do you think possibly that the people who run this world and admittedly worship the devil, basically, or Satan or whatever, all the satanic evil figures, public figures that we know about, they're the ones who support putting these things up all over the place. And their God, who they openly worship, is commonly known as being the bad guy, right? So do you think that maybe them erecting all of these devices all over the world could possibly be in preparation to help out their God, whoever that might be? Right? All right, moving forward. They continue on their trek. As you can see, the fog kind of rolls in a little bit, and he says, you saw what happened back there, right? They're not just they're not just killing anymore, they're recruiting. So when this pulse goes off worldwide, people instantly become sort of murderous. Hey, you know what? Actually, there's a really good movie that's exactly like this one. I think it's called Signal. Hold on, let me check it out. The Signal? Is it The Signal? No, not The Signal. God, these movies, they need better names, man. The Signal versus Signal. The Cell versus Cell. It's like hard to pull up movies. What is it? What is it? I forgot what it was called. Maybe somebody in the chat remembers. But it was the same concept. Exact same concept. I can't remember what it is right now. But basically, there's this signal that people hear, or this frequency that goes out worldwide, and it turns everybody, for the most part, into murderous psychopaths. The Doors sing about this in their song Riders on the Storm. How there's a killer on the road, right? His brain is squirming like a toad. Same stuff. So they say the pulse is coming from their mouths now. So now they're not just killing, they're recruiting. Just like in that movie with Sandra Bullock. What was the one where they're not supposed to look at anything or whatever? I forgot what it's called. Where she wears the blindfold, right? In that movie too, the people who take off their blindfolds, they don't immediately just want to kill themselves. They don't immediately want to kill other people. Sometimes they actually want to like try to get people to take off their blindfolds because they're thralls, they're slaves to this frequency. They are plasma possessed, right? They have been overcome by a stronger vibration other than their own. Either that or their very own vibration has become amplified, right? Which means that they were already bad in the first place. Now that position is solidified. It says that they don't need phones anymore to do this. And then it shows this weird close-up of the owl, right? I'm like, what is this, Labyrinth? What movie is this? Why are they showing this owl? No reason. Owls are not a part of this movie, but they did a close-up to specifically show you this owl in relationship to the frequency that we've been talking about, right? Why is that? Well, this right here are some models of a plasma discharge formation, a beam of plasma, a beam of energy, and what it looks like as it starts to form, as it starts to move about or whatnot. It says here that the Z-pinch high energy plasma discharge seen in the ancient skies as an owl. The owl or the eyes of the squatter man, or I'm sorry, owl eyes or the squatter man, right? That logo that we all have seen where the hands are up and the legs are bowed out and bent. Recorded by man as petroglyphs and myths. So people saw something similar to this up in the sky. And this is kind of what it possibly looked like. These are actual experiments done in the laboratory to see if they could match plasma formations to petroglyphs that have been seen worldwide of all of these different versions of the owl. And it turns out this is what it looks like. A toroidal field on the sides becomes, you could see them. It's strongest on the sides or whatever, so it kind of looks like two independent circles, but it's not. It's a donut shape, basically. And then you have these vibrations that come out from the center and stuff. As you can see, it looks exactly like an owl. And where this comes out from is the beam at the middle of the world, which we've talked about many times, which is seen as that goddess holding up the light, right? The light of the world or whatnot, right? So this is where the owl is also seen. The owl is a symbol for being able to see in the dark, just like whenever the color spectrum of our world changes. And it's also symbolic of the goddess of wisdom, right? Because wisdom is imparted to people whenever the energy is strengthened in our world. Here's another example of plasma tests done in a laboratory. You can see it looks exactly like the face of an owl, right? So they put the face of the owl in the movie purposefully, at least to speak to your subconscious, right? Because there's another message that's being shared aside from just the entertaining story of zombies or whatever, right? Now, they meet these other guys. This guy right here is some character. He says, what do? We kill phone freaks. That's what we do. So this guy's also a vicious killer. Interesting. So he's like, we kill phone freaks. Now, keep in mind, I know some of you are probably very excited to get out there and kill zombies or whatever, but I would exercise caution with your energy, not caution killing zombies or whatever. Do what you need to do to survive, but be cautious with your energy because you don't want to become the thing that you're destroying, right? This guy right here starts to become kind of like them because he's so excited to go kill all of them. So there's this other girl that's hanging out with him, and she says the phoners, that's what they call the zombies, the phoners are trying to draw us there in our dreams, but it's a trap. Draw us where? Well, she's talking about Mount Meru as well. She's talking about how we're all starting to have similar dreams and the same dreams, and we're all being spoken to. So they're trying to interpret these dreams. Are you all starting to have similar dreams? Are you having apocalyptic dreams? Are you all having your ears ringing with a loud sound that all of a sudden you become very aware of at night when you turn off all the loud noises and you turn off the electricity and you sit in silence? As a matter of fact, some of you might hear that loud ringing in your ears so much that you have to go turn on the fan, or you have to go turn on the TV or the radio or something to kind of drown out that dull ringing sound that's in your ears. I'm going to do a video about that because I feel like there's way more people than that. You're not alone, trust me, because I hear it too. All right, we're going to talk about that another time. Let's continue on. He says, powerful dreams I've been having. Tom's like, yeah, we've had them too. Everyone's having the same dreams, just like in the movie Time Machine. Remember that? When the guy goes so far into the future that it looks like he's in the past all of a sudden, and all of the inhabitants of this little world have the same dream of these Morlocks and this special cave where the Morlocks live or whatever. It's the same concept. Everyone starts dreaming the same thing. You can't help it. When the energy of the world becomes amplified, so do we. It brings us together in different ways. All right, so he says, it's always the same guy in the dream, always that phoner, the phoner in the red hoodie. They call him the president of the internet. So that guy in the red hoodie is known as the president of the internet. Now, are they talking about the physical internet that we have in the modern age? Yeah, it's one reference to it. But there's also another internet, okay? Now, check this out. A long time ago, thousands of years ago, people didn't need the internet. They didn't need this middleman that we call technology because they were telepathic. They had an internet. They had a world wide web they were connected to already, okay? But then the energy dissipated and they strayed from that. And then we went into what people call a fallen state. So he says they get inside of people's minds. I'll pace all night. I'll be all over this park. So this guy right here, he hasn't slept in like 6 days or 10 days or something insane, right? So he's actually starting to kind of lose his mind too because he's not sleeping at all. Which on one hand, some of us can't sleep because the energy is amplified. I get that. On the other hand, purposefully just not sleeping at all can not be a good idea when your body needs rest. No matter how much energy your spirit might have, if the body needs to rest, you need to feed the body from time to time and allow it that break. Tom says, what the hell's going on? Are you coming home? So you can't really see it right here, but there's a guy sitting in front of a park bench. This is a bag over his head. This is one of the zombies that they caught. They're using him like an alarm because when the other zombies get near him, he starts acting up and starts doing crazy stuff. So that's how they can tell where the zombies are, right? So he says, wait a minute, I hear my son's voice. I hear Johnny's voice coming from this zombie that's got a bag over his face. And Samuel L. Jackson's like, that's not your son. Hey man, that's not your son's voice. So they take it off and then the zombies still sounds like his son. So they shoot him or whatever. Now this guy who hasn't slept gets out of the ice cream truck. As you can see here, isn't that weird? Why would they choose an ice cream truck? That could have been any vehicle. It's not detrimental to the story whatsoever. That could have been a bus. It could have been anything, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the movie at all if they change this vehicle. So why did they choose this vehicle, right? They're all inside of this vehicle. Basically, it represents our world, okay? Our world is a freezer because it's covered in ice or the sky, dome above us, etc. All right, so they get out of the ice cream truck. This guy is pacing around in the middle of the forest like he's about to do something. He says, I'm hallucinating because that a-hole in the red hoodie. So this guy's starting to lose his mind. He's being tormented by these dreams of the king of the internet, basically, or the president of the internet. He's putting thoughts into my head, he says. You're the man, my artist. You are it. They thought it was me, but it's you. Now, what is he saying? He's saying that there are those who are called, etc., which is not this guy, right? He thought that he was one of the people who was called or somebody who was chosen by the red hoodie person or whatever, but it's not. It's the artist. He specifically says, you're the man, my artist. It's you. You are it. Why? Because the artists are the ones who have opened up that side of their mind or that part of their energy that is more creative. The world as it is now is left-brained. That's why most people are right left-handed, and they write from left to right, so they don't smear it as they write. However, if you go back in time, most people writing used to go from right to left, which means they were left-handed, which means that they were right-brained. Do you see how it switches back and forth with each flip? All right. So he's like, hey, Ray, what's around your neck? This guy has explosives he's got an explosive necklace on, basically, and he blows himself to pieces. All right, which is the only way that he could probably die, being that this is probably right around the time of no death, as I talked about in some of my videos. This dude can't die, so he wants to ensure that if he does try, he's definitely going to succeed, right? Because it's not easy to die during the time of no death, which is why it's called that. All right, so this guy goes back home. Notice the White House. Notice the pillars and the columns. We've talked about that many different times. He goes home to see if his son is okay. He's checking on everybody. He walks in, and there's a note allegedly left by his son, and it says, "Dear Dad, I hope that you're alive. Mom is one of them. I'm going to Cashwhack. Please come. Love, Jonathan Riddle." Last name's Riddle, which is pretty interesting. Riddell, whatever, same thing. All right, so he says, they check out the ice cream truck, and he's like, "Did you know there was a bomb in here? Did you know that this dude put a bomb in the ice cream truck?" They're like, "No, we didn't know that." There's no ice cream. It's full of explosives. That truck represents our world. Our world is going to explode one of these days, at least the sky. Okay, not the whole world. The whole world's not going to blow up, but the sky will blow up, and it will depressurize. That's why there's explosives in the ice cream truck. All right. Now, he says, "Listen, man, I'm going to Cashwhack." Now, what they've been told by the zombie hunters is that it's a trap, that going to Cashwhack is actually a really bad idea. Let's check it out. So now we've got two opposing views on going to the North Pole. One is going to the North Pole some kind of a trap. Two is that going to the North Pole is some kind of a place of safety. Let's get more context. He says, if you're going there, you're not going to come out. And that's what happens. If you go to the North Pole, people don't come back, typically. Now, there are legends of people who have gone and they have come back, but it's not easy. It's not easy to come back from the North Pole. I just did a video about the electrical arc that goes over the North Pole, the anode and the cathode witnesses on either side of Mount Meru. And I talked about how there is a force field that goes around the North Pole whenever the energy comes up, and it creates a little mini dome inside of our world, at the center of our world. So it's not easy to get out. It's not easy to go in once that force field is up. Also, there's the indrawn currents. Right? There's the whirlpool that is said to be up there, because remember that map I showed you, how there's that ocean river around those four lands, right? That's a current that's moving very swiftly. So it's not easy to get out of there. He says it's a suicide mission. You're going to die. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because I feel like the movies and the world is speaking to me personally, giving me little clues about how and when it will be a good idea to make a journey to the place of safety that we've been referring to. The rest of the world's going to say bad idea. The rest of the world's going to say, don't go up there. It's off limits. Don't go. It's protected by the governments. They'll shoot you. They'll kill you. It's a suicide mission, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay. I have not heard of many. I don't catch wind of many people like, another person tried to go to the North Pole today, but they were shot dead by Russia's military or whatever. You know, like I don't hear those kind of stories. So to me, those are just all fences that are installed in our minds. Okay, they don't need to physically protect an area that they already have you convinced is scary and off limits and stuff, anyways, and super cold. Anyways, he said, this kid's like, you're stupid. You're going to die. This is a bad idea. So he goes up to the kid and he whispers. He says, you remember the story of Orpheus? Do you remember Orpheus? Orpheus traveled to the underworld. Orpheus is also the god of dreams. Morpheus, same deal. To find his loved one and bring them back to earth. Here's another reference, just like in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, how we talked about there's those two witnesses, right? On either side of the Ark of the Covenant, right? The arch. And that every once in a while, one of those witnesses or one of those gods is seen as just going back down into the underworld and leaving for a bit while the other one becomes so strong that it covers the whole ark. And then that one comes back and they sort of take turns. It's almost like an alternating current. Interesting. So Orpheus goes down into the inner recesses of the earth to rescue his loved one or bring her back up to the surface, etc. And they go back and forth all the time. This is way too dark to see. I knew it was going to be dark, so I actually fixed this up. I lightened it up just a bit. He's in the ice cream truck. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. He's looking very far off into the distance. See, this is like the little window of the ice cream truck. And in the middle, there's some sort of a receiver, some sort of a tower. And around that tower, this circle that you're looking at now, are thousands and thousands of zombies, phone zombies. And they're all hoofing it. They're all doing this little fast-paced jog, and they're following one another in this huge, gigantic circle. All of them following the electromagnetics that are changing in the world that we live in. Now, you can't see this part next. It just shows all the zombies kind of walking in the circle. You can hear them hoofing about, hoof, 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 or whatever. You can hear their feet stomping on the ground. And here's another version. I had to make it lighter in Photoshop just so that you could see it. But as you can tell, there's thousands of these people all walking in a circle, all around the strongest electromagnetic point in our world, which is, I believe, so far, the North Pole. Mount Meru, which is what this little receiver in the middle represents. That represents Mount Meru, which can extend its signal worldwide. How do we know? Because you just get a compass out and it'll point right to it. It's definitely having an effect. Now, for more information, I have done a video about the animals. I'm sure all of you are thinking about that. The animals that are walking around in circles. I saw somebody in the chat, A-Spec, mentioned Mecca. That's also a good one. The cobblestone, right? How they all walk around the cobblestone. The cobblestone is it's a black cube, which is said to hold a black rock. This holy piece of something else that was holy. The black rock is Rupas Nigra. That is why they all feel like they have to walk around it, right? Exactly like the animals. The animals know, and they are affected by the world's energy. When the world goes into flux, vortices will appear all over the place, little vortexes of energy. When the animals are caught up in those vortexes of energy, they follow them, right? Why? To get energy. It's to feed off of the energy, exactly like the cobblestone, exactly like in Mecca, exactly like in the Bible, whenever the people of the Hebrews walked around the city of, not Ai. There's a city called Ai in the Bible, which is interesting. Jericho, right? When the walls of Jericho fell down or whatever. Hey, let me give some shout outs. I'm getting some donations, so I want to say thank you. Irregular Absolution says, just like the animals, very good. Thank you for your support. And Serving Angel with 40 knock. Appreciate you. Also Irregular Absolution who says, what gets me is the ending. Apparently all this could be one big illusion. Oh, you spoiled it. I'm just kidding. I hate it when people make a big deal about spoiling movies. Like, psh, dude, just go watch the movie. If you're that into it, go see it before it gets spoiled. Anyways, just like the walls of Jericho, right? The walls of Jericho fell after the Israelites marched around the city walls once a day for 6 days, 7 times on the 7th day, and blew their trumpets. So after walking around and pacing around this holy relic or the walls of this special city or whatnot, the walls came crumbling down. That symbolically represents our world and the sky falling. All right, cool. So they take a bus drive. What is that? The ice cream truck is super dark in this particular. I like one of the reasons I like this movie is because it's so dark. I turned everything dark mode. I don't like all that brightness in my face. Anyways, this part's really hard to see, but you can look and see that right in the middle is the president of the internet. Thanks again for the donations, everyone. The presidents of the internet. I have 500 people watching. Oh my God, that's awesome. Man, I'm honored. How fun. Well, let's continue having a good time. I don't want to distract from it. So the president of the internet, the guy in the red hoodie, Little Red Riding Hood, etc., the red symbolism quite often is representative and symbolic of the red plasma above. The reason I believe that the red plasma, that the plasma around our world in the plasma sphere is red is because I believe that it is ionized hydrogen. Okay? So hydrogen comes down from the sky, swirling around in these sky snakes or sky worms or fire dragons, etc. And this is what we're looking at now. Irregular Absolution with $10. Thank you. He says, sorry if I did spoil it. Oh, you're good. Hey, good vibes to you too, man. Thank you so much for all the support. All right, let's finish up this movie. So they see the president of the internet. He totally runs him over with the ice cream truck, right? Which is kind of like symbolic of the dome going back up or whatever and keeping out the red plasma. He shoots the president of the internet dead, falls down, and exactly like the Joker in the original Batman, right? The original Joker where he falls off that thing and he dies, but he's still laughing. Right? There's still a voice coming out of this dead kid's mouth, this dead hoodie guy, and it's his kid's voice. And he says, hi, Dad. Hi, Dad. And this guy is like, what? What's going on? And you see all the zombies walking around and stuff still. They're all passing by him. He just killed him. He takes out his cell phone because he's about to blow up the ice cream truck, right? He's about to call the ice cream truck or whatever because it's rigged. And he's about to blow up the ice cream truck, which will get rid of all the plasma, all the negative frequencies, right? Which is going to happen to this world, okay? Our world is filling up right now with bad vibes, negative frequencies, which is why we are the good vibe tribe. And we try, and our goal is to do the things that come naturally to us, which is being kind to other people, etc. Anyways, the day is coming when the sky will explode and suck up all of the frequencies, suck up all of the energy, suck up all of the spirits and souls and all kinds of stuff into the sky to cleanse out, to flush out our world. It will literally be flushed like Men in Black. All right, so he sees the sun all of a sudden, right? He's been looking for his son this entire time. He's like, oh man, he goes and gives him a big old hug. All of a sudden, every single phone zombie opens their mouth. Makes that weird sound collectively. Even his own son in front of him. Even the hoodie guy gets back up. Wait a minute, I thought the hoodie guy was dead. Remember, this is the time of no death, symbolically speaking. His son opens his mouth and it's screeching. He's sending out this signal and everything. Remember, this guy was going to blow up the thing. He was going to blow up all of them. But he saw a sun all of a sudden, and he stopped. Now, what does this represent symbolically? This represents, and this is my own interpretation, but there will be those of us who desire to go to the North Pole, who desire to go into Mount Meru and stay there as a safe haven, or to go there even after the apocalypse to the place where the light is shooting up into the sky. However, there is something that is acting contrary to that desire, which serves the purpose of distraction, okay? Typically represented by the color red. Usually, it is seen in the movies by a woman wearing a red dress. Typically, it's a blonde woman too. But what that is, it is symbolic of distraction, okay? The distraction is amplified, okay? This world, how do I explain this? Some of us go back to the North Pole. Some of us return to the tree of life where we had come from, and we feel a longing. We feel a calling to go there because the world is talking to us, telling us to go there, basically, because it's a safe place, and scientifically, it will be the eye of the storm. So it's literally the safest place in the world during a worldwide storm or a worldwide tempest, right? But some of us will be too caught up. We're already too caught up. Some of us are caught up in the loops of life, and we are attached, damn it, to families, to sons and daughters, to uncles and aunts, to fathers and mothers, to all of the drama, the girlfriends, and all the stuff that will keep people from going on a trek like this. So they use that. They use those things against us from time to time. Rob Shank gave me $5 for my gas tank. Super appreciate it, especially during these times. Thanks, Rob. All right, so now he talks to his kid, and all of a sudden there's this huge flash. The whole place blows up. After he talks to his kid, he's able to blow up the ice cream truck. Irregular absolution. Hey, good. Welcome back. Welcome back. Thanks for signing back up. Appreciate it. All right, so all of a sudden he blows up everything. The whole North Pole's blown up. Everything's good. All the zombies are dead. And he shows them walking. And he says, what's the name of the place that we're going, Dad? They're on these railroad tracks, right? What's the name of the place that we're going to? He says, it's Canada. So here we are again, going north to Canada, which comes up again in Truth in Movies. We just broke down Slumberland, where they went to Canada. Isn't that interesting? Everyone's going to the North Pole, or going north, basically. But then they show a close-up. They go back to the North Pole, and they show you that that's not really where you are. This is him in his mind. This is him in real life. Check this out. Hold on, let me just play it through. So you can see John Cusack's face. Oh, don't do that. Hold up. So you can see John Cusack's face. He's actually become assimilated into all of the drone-like zombies that are walking around in circles. He has no idea because he has become plasma possessed. This is the word that I like to use because it's fun. I like to say plasma possessed. But anyways, in his mind, he doesn't see himself as walking along mindlessly with a bunch of other zombies. He just sees this perfect utopia where he's with his kid. When people become... He looks like the dude from Halloween, right? Wow, that's insane. Anyways, that's the whole movie. But listen, when people become plasma possessed, in their minds, they're not seeing themselves from an outsider's perspective. You may witness somebody just viciously murder somebody else out of cold blood, right? But in their minds, they don't see it like that. In their minds, it's completely justified. In their minds, it makes sense. In their minds, the ends justify the means, which is the energy of the world we live in right now, which is left-brained, which is very robotic, which is very machine-like in its nature, right? We need to balance that out. The way that we protect ourselves from being plasma possessed is very simple. Forget the beat. I'm gonna go a cappella. I'm just gonna keep on going. Anyways, I got like nothing else to show except for starting it over. Anyways, when people become plasma possessed, right? The thing that balances you out from that left brain, the ends justify the means, and the thing that will protect you from justification in your own minds of doing stuff that you probably shouldn't be doing comes from Peter Pan. It's a happy thought. That's all it is, right? Now, it could be a memory, but as you could see, memories can be manipulated, right? So what is a happy thought? I should probably do Peter Pan, right? A happy thought is your meditative place, literally your happy place that you can go to in a segment of your mind that you have built and set up and moved in all of your comfy, happy stuff to, so that whenever you feel these strong energies and you start getting overwhelmed, and you'll see this happen to people, they'll hype themselves up and then they'll start hyping each other up, because they're all similar minded. And they're going to start doing messed up, crazy things that you couldn't even imagine being acceptable in mainstream society. I'll tell you right now, it's already happening. Things that are already considered or used to be considered unacceptable are already acceptable worldwide. And every time that we go through another phase of this, the time it takes for it to become acceptable is less and less and less and less and less. Okay, so I will not be personally surprised whenever I see this exact same type of chaos that is presented to us in these types of movies happening and going down in real life. When that happens, guard your energy. Work on your energy now so that it is less susceptible to being taken over when the time comes. I felt like I had a good time on this one. Did you guys have a good time? All right, cool. I'm going to take off. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
Hard to fade away. I try so hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier for me
Who are you in this vast multiverse?
Your powers collide.